Ambassador Velmora stood in the center of the great hall, his blue-scaled skin glistening under the bright lights. The High Council members sat in their tall chairs, waiting to hear his words. His hands shook as he held the data pad. 3 years had passed since they first met the humans, but the memory still made him feel cold inside. Council members, Velmora began, his voice barely above a whisper. I must tell you about the species from the third planet in the Sol system. At first, they seemed like any other young race we had found before. He touched a button on his data pad. Images of human ships appeared in the air above them. The ships looked small and simple compared to the massive vessels of the Confederation. Their technology was basic, Velmora continued. They used fusion engines that were hundreds of years behind ours. Their weapons were simple plasma cannons and kinetic railguns. Their planet was divided into many small nations that often fought each other. We thought they would be easy to control. High Counselor Zar then leaned forward in his chair. Tell us about the first contact, Ambassador. Velmora's scales turned a darker shade of blue. When their ships entered our space, we sent Admiral Torvek with our standard fleet. 200 of our best warships against their small group of vessels. We counted only 43 human ships. The ambassador paused and took a deep breath. The human fleet was led by someone called Admiral Kim Hanna. Her ship was named the UES Resilience. It was not the largest ship in their group, but our scanners showed it had the most weapons. What happened when Admiral Torvek gave them our standard message? Asked Counselor Mervox. The message was simple as always, Velmora replied. Submit to Confederation rule or face immediate destruction. We have used these same words with every new species for the past 1,000 years. Most species see our massive fleets and surrender within minutes. Velmora's voice grew quieter. But Admiral Kim Hanna did something no other species leader had ever done. She listened to our message through the translation system. Then she spoke back to us. The council members waited in silence. The translator gave us her first words as a polite refusal. She said humanity would not surrender their freedom. But then she said something else. Something that made our translation computers stop working for several seconds. What did she say? High Counselor Zar then demanded. When the computers finally translated her words, they said, "Come and take it." A shocked silence filled the great hall. In all their years of conquest, no species had ever challenged them so directly. Admiral Torvek was surprised but not worried, Velmora continued. He had faced rebel groups before. He positioned our fleet in the standard attack formation. Our ships formed a great wall in space with our heavy cruisers in front and our battleships behind them. The ambassador touched his data pad again. New images appeared showing the battle formation. The Confederation ships looked like a metal mountain floating in the darkness of space. The human ships did something strange, Velmora said. Instead of running away or begging for mercy, they moved into their own formation. But it was not like any battle formation we had seen before. How was it different? Asked Counselor Yexare. They spread their ships out in a wide circle around our fleet. Some ships went above us, some below, and others to the sides. It looked like they were trying to surround us, which seemed impossible with so few vessels. Velmora's hands trembled as he continued. Admiral Torvek laughed when he saw this. He said the humans were making it easier for us to destroy them. He ordered the first attack wave to begin. The images in the air changed to show the battle's first moments. Bright flashes of light marked where the Confederation weapons fired. Our plasma cannons fired at the same time. Hundreds of energy beams crossed space toward the human ships. We expected to see explosions and surrender signals. The battle should have ended in the first few minutes. Velmora's voice became very quiet. But the human ships did not explode. They did not surrender. Instead, they began to move. Move how? High Counselor Zar then asked. Like nothing we had ever seen before. Their ships twisted and spun through space, dodging our weapons with impossible speed. Our targeting computers could not keep up with them. It was as if they knew where our shots would go before we fired them. The ambassador paused and looked at each council member. But that was not the strangest part. The strangest part was that the humans were shooting back. With their primitive weapons? Counselor Mervox sounded doubtful. Yes, but they were not using them in primitive ways. Their kinetic weapons hit our ships in places that caused maximum damage. Their plasma cannons targeted our weapon systems first, then our engines. It was as if they knew exactly where our weak points were. Velmora touched the scars on his neck, remembering. Admiral Torvek sent a message to Admiral Kim Hanna after the first hour of fighting. He demanded to know how humans had learned so much about our ships. What did she tell him? She said something that still haunts me. She said, "We have been watching you for longer than you think. We know everything about your weapons, your ships, and your tactics. We have been preparing for this day since you first entered our galaxy." The Great Hall was completely silent now. "That was when we realized," Velmora whispered, "that we were not fighting a primitive species. We were fighting an enemy that had been studying us for years, learning our weaknesses and preparing for war. We were so very, very wrong about humanity." The battle started exactly at 8 in the morning, Confederation time. Admiral Torvek stood on his command bridge, watching as 200 of his best warships fired their plasma cannons at the same moment. Bright green energy beams shot across the dark space toward the human fleet. "This will be over quickly," Torvek said to his officers. "No species has ever survived our opening attack." But something was wrong. The human ships were not exploding. Instead, they began to move in ways that made no sense. Commander Park Jin stood on the bridge of his ship, the Defiance. He was a tall man with dark hair and calm eyes. Next to him, his pilot Lieutenant Choi Mina had her hands on the controls. "Mina, take us into the spiral pattern," Park Jin ordered. "Sir, that will create forces that could kill us," Mina replied, but her hands were already moving. "Do it anyway." The Defiance suddenly twisted through space like a spinning top. The ship turned and rolled so fast that the walls groaned under the pressure. Any normal alien crew would have been crushed by the forces, but the humans stayed at their posts and kept fighting. Torvek watched in shock as the human ship completed moves that should have been impossible. "How are they still alive?" he whispered. On another human ship called the Courage, Captain Lee Jun was giving orders to his crew when the first Confederation boarding pods smashed through their hull. "They are trying to board us," his weapons officer reported. "What are your orders, Captain?" "Fight them," Lee Jun said simply. "Fight them with everything we have." The Confederation soldiers entered the human ship expecting quick surrender. Instead, they found something they had never seen before. A human engineer named Kim Tae had lost his right arm to a plasma blast, but he was still working on his control panel with his left hand. Blood covered his uniform, but he kept typing commands into his computer. "Surrender now," a Confederation soldier ordered him. Kim Tae looked up and smiled. "I do not think so." He pressed one final button, and the ship's reactor began to overload. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Song Hai was treating wounded crew members when enemy soldiers burst through the door. "Stop what you are doing," they commanded. Song Hai did not even look up from her patient. "I am saving lives. You will have to kill me to make me stop." The Confederation soldiers had never met a species that continued working while under attack. In their experience, all species surrendered when faced with superior force. But the humans were different. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Nam Hyun had been shot twice, but he was still crawling toward the main power controls. His legs did not work anymore, but he pulled himself forward with his arms. "The engines must keep running," he told his assistant. "The ship must keep fighting." Captain Lee Jun was on his bridge when a plasma bolt hit him in the chest. The wound was deep and would certainly kill him within minutes. But he did not fall down. Instead, he used the wall to hold himself up and continued giving orders to his crew. "Return fire on their flagship," he ordered. "Target their weapon systems." "Captain, you need medical attention," his first officer said. "I need to win this battle," Lee Jun replied. "The medical attention can wait." Admiral Torvek was receiving reports from his boarding parties, and none of them made sense. "Sir, the humans will not surrender," his ground commander reported. "They keep fighting even when they are dying." "What do you mean?" Torvek asked. "I mean they fight with broken bones. They fight when they have lost arms or legs. They fight even when they know they cannot win." On the Defiance, Commander Park Jin was watching the battle unfold around him. 3 Confederation ships were trying to surround his vessel, but Lieutenant Choi Mina kept moving them out of danger. "Mina, ram that cruiser," Park Jin ordered. "Sir, that will destroy our ship too," she pointed out. "But it will also destroy their ship, and they have more ships than we do. Make the trade." Mina nodded and turned the Defiance directly toward the enemy cruiser. The Confederation captain saw them coming and tried to move away, but he was too slow. The Defiance struck the Confederation ship at full speed. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Similar scenes were happening all across the battlefield. Human ships were using themselves as weapons, crashing into enemy vessels and taking them down. Other human crews were doing things that violated every rule of space combat. On the destroyer Hope, the crew had opened their airlocks and were fighting in the vacuum of space, using their emergency suits to survive. On the cruiser Freedom, Chief Engineer Yun Bo had turned the life support system into a weapon, pumping poison gas into the sections where enemy soldiers were trying to advance. Admiral Torvek sent a message to Admiral Kim Hanna on the resilience. Your people are fighting in ways that make no sense. They are dying for no reason. Kim Hanna's response came back quickly. We are not dying for no reason. We are dying so that humanity will live. That is a trade we will make every time. But you cannot win, Torvek replied. We have more ships than you do. Winning and losing are not the same thing to humans as they are to you, Kim Hanna said. We do not fight to win quickly. We fight to make sure our enemies never want to fight us again. Torvek realized something that made his blood run cold. The humans were not trying to defeat his fleet in normal combat. They were trying to make the battle so costly that the Confederation would never attack humanity again. And it was working. 6 hours had passed since the battle began. Admiral Torvek stood on his command bridge, sweat dripping down his face despite the cool air. This fight should have ended in 30 minutes, but the humans were still fighting. Half of his fleet was damaged or destroyed, and his soldiers were exhausted. Sir, we are detecting new ships approaching, his scanner officer reported, fear clear in his voice. Torvek looked at the display screen. What he saw made his heart stop beating for a moment. Hundreds of human ships were coming out of the asteroid belt that surrounded the solar system. These were not the small, damaged vessels he had been fighting. These were fresh warships, bigger than the first human fleet. How many? Torvek asked quietly. 300 ships, sir. Maybe more. They were hiding in the asteroids. Admiral Kim Hanna's voice suddenly filled every speaker in the Confederation fleet. Her words were broadcast on all communication channels at the same time. Admiral Torvek, she said, her voice calm and cold. You wanted to see what humanity is capable of in battle. The truth is we have been holding back. We did not want to show you our real strength unless we had to. Torvek grabbed his communication device. How long have those ships been hiding there? Since before you arrived in our system, Kim Hanna replied. We knew you were coming weeks ago. We have been watching your fleet since you entered our space. We knew exactly when you would attack and how you would do it. The second human fleet was led by Admiral Yoon Seo, a woman with short black hair and scars on her face. Her flagship was called the Retribution, and it was twice the size of any ship in the first human fleet. All ships begin the real attack, Admiral Yoon Seo ordered. What happened next broke every rule of civilized warfare that the Confederation had followed for thousands of years. The human ships began firing weapons that Torvek had never seen before. Instead of normal plasma cannons, they shot large pieces of metal and rock at incredible speed. These kinetic weapons hit Confederation ships like hammers, punching holes through their strongest armor. Sir, they are using asteroids as weapons, his weapons officer reported in shock. Torvek watched as human ships pushed huge rocks toward his fleet. The asteroids had been fitted with engines and guidance systems, turning them into massive flying bombs. When they hit Confederation ships, the results were devastating. This violates the Treaty of Civilized Combat, Torvek said. Using asteroids as weapons is forbidden. We never signed your treaty, Admiral Yoon Seo replied over the communication channel. Human warfare follows human rules. But the kinetic weapons were only the beginning. The human ships began attacking the Confederation computer networks with viruses that spread from ship to ship. Chief Technology Officer Vexmar was at his control station when alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Sir, our computers are being attacked, he reported to Torvek. Some kind of virus is spreading through our network. Can you stop it? I do not know, sir. This is unlike anything we have seen. The virus is changing itself as it spreads, learning how to break our security systems. Within minutes, Confederation ships began turning their weapons on each other. The human virus had taken control of their targeting systems and was making them shoot their own allies. The humans are controlling our ships, Vexmar said in terror. They are making us fight ourselves. The worst part was yet to come. Human soldiers in strange metal suits began boarding the Confederation vessels. These warriors were led by Captain Nam Hyun, a man whose armor made him look more like a machine than a person. Nam Hyun and his soldiers moved through space without any life support. Their metal suits allowed them to survive in the vacuum between ships. They cut holes in the Confederation vessels and entered through sections that had no air. How are they breathing? Torvek's security chief asked. Their suits have their own air supply, the scanner operator explained. They can fight in space as easily as they fight inside a ship. The human soldiers fought in ways that terrified the Confederation troops. They moved together like parts of a single machine, always knowing where their teammates were and what they were doing. Lieutenant Colonel Bei Young was coordinating their movements from her ship, the Vengeance. She used a communication system that the Confederation could not understand or block. Team Alpha, move to Deck 7, she ordered. Team Beta, secure the engine room. Team Gamma, take the bridge. The Confederation soldiers tried to stop the human boarding parties, but they could not fight enemies who worked together so perfectly. The humans seemed to share information instantly, responding to threats before the Confederation troops could even see them coming. Admiral Torvek realized something that filled him with cold fear. This battle had been planned by the humans long before his fleet arrived. They had studied his ships, his weapons, and his tactics. They knew his weaknesses better than he knew them himself. They have been preparing for this war since first contact, he said to his officers. Everything they did during our early meetings was designed to learn about us. What do you mean, sir? When we first met them, we thought they were showing us their culture and technology out of friendship. But they were actually studying our reactions, learning how our ships worked, and planning for this battle. The human ships continued their attack with weapons and tactics that violated every rule of civilized combat. They used their own damaged vessels as guided missiles, they poisoned the air in Confederation ships, and they fought in ways that seemed designed to cause maximum terror rather than quick victory. Sir, we are losing this battle, his first officer said quietly. Torvek looked at the battle display. More than half of his ships were gone. The survivors were damaged and surrounded by human vessels. They were never trying to surrender, he whispered. They were always planning to destroy us. The battle was over. Ambassador Velmora lay on a medical bed in the human ship called Mercy. His body was broken in many places, and his blue blood stained the white sheets. He had expected to die when his ship was destroyed, but the humans had saved him and the other Confederation survivors. Dr. Kang Min was a small woman with gentle hands and kind eyes. She worked carefully on Velmora's wounds, using medical tools that were more advanced than anything the Confederation possessed. Why are you helping me? Velmora asked weakly. We came here to destroy you. Dr. Kang Min looked up from her work. Because you are hurt and we can help. That is what doctors do. Next to her, Medic O'Jean was treating a Confederation soldier who had lost his arm in the battle. The human was growing the alien a new arm using something he called regeneration technology. This should not be possible, the soldier whispered, watching his new arm grow. Our best doctors cannot regrow lost body parts. We learned to do this because our planet kept trying to kill us, O'Jean explained simply. When you face extinction many times, you learn to fix whatever breaks. Velmora tried to understand what the human doctor meant. Your planet tried to kill you? Dr. Kang Min sat down next to his bed. Let me tell you about Earth, she said. Our world is not a peaceful place like most planets. Every few thousand years, something happens that almost destroys all life. What kind of things? Velmora asked. Ice ages that freeze the entire planet for thousands of years. Volcanoes so large they block out the sun. Rocks from space that hit us like bombs. Diseases that kill most of our people. We call these extinction events. Velmora's eyes widened. How many times has this happened? We have counted at least 12 major extinction events in our history, Dr. Kang Min replied. Each time most life on Earth died. But some humans always survived and we learned from each disaster. Captain Song Hai entered the medical room. She was a tall woman with short black hair and intelligent eyes. In her hands she carried a data pad with information about humanity. Ambassador Velmora, she said politely. I am Captain Song Hai, Human Intelligence Officer. I have been studying your species since first contact. Would you like to know what we learned about you? Velmora nodded, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Your Confederation has conquered over 300 species in the past 2,000 years, Song Hai began. In every case you use the same tactics. You arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and most species give up without fighting. This has always worked before, Velmora said. Yes, because those species evolved on safe planets, Song Hai replied. Their worlds never tried to kill them, so they never learned to fight for survival. Humans are different. Song Hai touched her data pad and images appeared in the air above them. The images showed Earth's history of disasters. 66 million years ago, a giant rock from space hit our planet. It killed all the large dinosaurs and most other life. But small mammals survived by hiding underground and eating whatever they could find. The images changed to show massive ice sheets covering continents. 20,000 years ago, ice covered most of our planet. The cold should have killed all humans. Instead, we learned to make fire, build shelters, and work together to survive. More images showed volcanoes erupting and diseases spreading. 700 years ago, a disease called the Black Death killed half the people in some parts of our world. We learned to make medicine and build hospitals. 300 years ago, another volcano blocked out the sun for 2 years. We learned to store food and grow crops in the dark. Velmora felt cold as he listened. Every disaster made you stronger? That is correct, Songhai said. Each extinction event taught us something new about survival. We learned to make backup plans for our backup plans. We learned to spread our people and resources across many different places so that one disaster could not destroy everything. Dr. Kong Min continued the explanation. When humans first discovered space travel, we did not just build a few ships. We built thousands of ships and sent them in all directions. We established colonies on different worlds and moons, so that if Earth was destroyed, humanity would continue. But that was not enough for us, Songhai added. We also prepared for war. We studied every alien species we met, learning about their weapons, their tactics, and their weaknesses. We did this secretly, pretending to be peaceful traders and explorers. Velmora realized the horrible truth. You have been preparing to fight us since the day we met. Yes, Songhai confirmed. When your first ships visited our space 3 years ago, they scanned our planets and ships. We let them do this because we were scanning them at the same time. We learned about your technology, your military structure, and your battle tactics. We built copies of your ships and weapons so we could test them, Dr. Kongmin explained. We found weaknesses in your designs that you did not know existed. We developed viruses that could attack your computers. We created weapons specifically designed to destroy your ships. Songhai showed him more images on her data pad. They were pictures of human factories hidden inside asteroids and on distant moons. We built our secret fleet in places where your scouts would never look, she said. We have factories that can build new ships faster than you can destroy them. We have armies training on 100 different worlds. We have weapons stored in secret locations throughout this part of the galaxy. Why? Velmora whispered. Why did you do all this? Because that is what humans do, Dr. Kongmin said gently. We prepare for the worst possible thing that could happen, and then we prepare for something even worse than that. It is how we survived when our planet tried to kill us, and it is how we will survive when other species try to kill us. Velmora closed his eyes, finally understanding. Humanity was not just another species. They were survivors who had been shaped by millions of years of disasters. They did not fight like other species because they were not like other species. Ambassador Velmora stood in the center of the Great Council chamber, his 3 remaining arms steady as he held his final report. Where his 4th arm had been, there was now only a metal prosthetic that the humans had given him. The High Council members sat in complete silence, waiting for his last words. Council members, Velmora said, his voice clear and strong. I have told you how we met humanity, how we fought them, and how we lost. Now I must tell you what happened after the battle ended. High Chancellor Morthak leaned forward in his golden chair. What do you mean, Ambassador? I mean that humanity did not stop fighting when they defeated our fleet, Velmora replied. The battle in their solar system was only the beginning. The ambassador touched a control on his data pad. Images appeared in the air showing star maps with red marks across many systems. Under the command of General Ryu Bo and Admiral Shinyu, the humans did something no defeated enemy had ever done to us. They attacked our territory. Shocked whispers filled the chamber. In 2,000 years of conquest, no species had ever successfully attacked Confederation space. They used the same tactics against us that we had used against hundreds of other species, Velmora continued. But they were better at it than we were. The images showed human fleets moving through space, attacking Confederation bases and freeing the alien species that lived there. The humans captured our forward military bases in the Outer Rim, Velmora explained. They took our weapons, our ships, and our supplies. But they did not keep these things for themselves. What did they do with them? Asked Counselor Zekvar. They gave them to the species we had conquered, Velmora replied. The humans freed 17 worlds that had been under Confederation control for centuries. They armed these species and taught them how to fight back. More images appeared, showing alien races that the Council recognized. These were species that had been conquered long ago and forced to serve the Confederation. The Veltari people, who we conquered 300 years ago, now have their own fleet again, Velmora said. The Mechlons, who we enslaved 200 years ago, are now free and fighting alongside the humans. High Chancellor Morthak's face turned pale. How many species have joined this human alliance? 47 so far, Velmora answered. And more are joining every day. The humans call it the Human Protection Accord. Any species that asks for help against us will receive it. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Some members shouted that they should gather their remaining fleets and attack the humans again. Others demanded to know how this could have happened. Velmora waited for the noise to die down, then continued his report. 3 days ago, I received a message from Admiral Kim Hanna, he said. She offered us a choice. What kind of choice? The High Chancellor asked. We can join their new Galactic Confederation as equal partners, Velmora explained. We would have the same rights and responsibilities as every other member species. We would help make decisions about trade, defense, and exploration. And if we refuse? Asked Councillor Merdok. Velmora's expression became very serious. Then we become enemies of 47 different species, all armed with human weapons and trained in human tactics. The chamber fell completely silent. Every council member understood what this meant. But there is something else you must understand, Velmora continued. I have spent months studying humanity while recovering from my injuries. I have learned things about them that explain why we lost so completely. Tell us, the High Chancellor ordered. Humans do not fight wars the same way we do, Velmora said. When we fight, we try to win quickly and then stop fighting. When humans fight, they try to make sure they never have to fight the same enemy again. He paused to let this sink in. During my time on their ships, I spoke with many human officers. Captain Park Jin told me something that I will never forget. He said that humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. What does that mean? Asked Councillor Yexare. It means they are always preparing for the next battle, even when they are not fighting, Velmora explained. While they were treating my wounds and feeding me, they were also building new weapons and training new soldiers. The ambassador showed them more images from his data pad. These showed human factories, training centers, and research facilities. They have not stopped preparing for war since our battle ended, he said. They are building ships that are twice as powerful as the ones that defeated us. They are training soldiers in new tactics. They are developing weapons that we have never seen. Why are they doing this if they want peace? The High Chancellor asked. Because they know that other species like us exist in the galaxy, Velmora replied. They know that someday someone else will try to conquer them. When that day comes, they will be ready. He closed his data pad and looked directly at the High Chancellor. Council members, humanity offered us mercy because they believe we can change. They think we can learn to live peacefully with other species instead of conquering them. And if we cannot change? Asked Councillor Zekvar quietly. Velmora's voice became very cold. Then they will do to us what we did to hundreds of other species. They will destroy us completely. The chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, High Chancellor Morthak stood up. We will vote, he announced. All in favor of accepting humanity's offer to join their confederation as equals? Every hand in the chamber rose. The vote was unanimous. It is decided, the High Chancellor said. We will join the Human Protection Accord. Velmora nodded. I will send the message to Admiral Kim Hanna immediately. As the council members filed out of the chamber, many of them looked back at Velmora. They knew that this day marked the end of the Confederation as they had known it. But it also marked the beginning of something new. Something that might be better than what they had before. Velmora remained in the chamber alone, composing his message to the humans. He would tell them that the Confederation accepted their offer of peace. And he would pray that humanity would keep its promise to treat them as equals instead of enemies.